Hello, teacher. My name is Ariana Villeda, and I completed this translation project individually as part of my midterm exam number two. The objective of this project was to translate a scanned document using different tools and strategies, including OCR, optical character recognition, MT, machine translation, CAT tools, a computer assisted translation, and equivalence techniques. In this presentation, I will explain the full process that I followed from extracting the text to producing the final translation. I will also discuss the tools I use, the challenges I encounter, and how I solve them in order to achieve a clear, accurate, and natural translation. And even though this project was originally designed to be in groups, I completed all the stages individually, which allowed me to fully understand each step throughout the translation process. The text I worked with is a descriptive passage about two destinations, Rome and Sardinia. It presents cultural, historical, and sensory descriptions, which made the translation more complex because I had to preserve not only the meaning, but also the tone and style um, of the original text, make it sound natural. For example, the text includes some images, figurative language, and descriptive vocabulary that creates a vivid picture for the reader. Because of this, I needed to ensure that the Spanish version of this text kept the same expressive and descriptive quality without sounding unnatural or to sound too literal. The first step in my process was to use an online OCR tool to convert the unscanned document into editable text, right? This step was essential because the original file was now directly editable. The OCR tool allowed me to extract the text and transform it into a format that I could work with. However, OCR tools are not always perfect. After extracting the text, this is the text without corrections, I carefully checked it to correct different errors such as spacing issues, incorrect punctuation, and misrecognized words. For example, sometimes OCR tools confuse letters like um, L and I, or they mix words incorrectly. Um, for example, the title, right? It's Itcation when originally was it's vacation, right? Because of this, I made sure to read and analyze the entire document before starting the translation process. And this step was very important because it was like the base, because any mistake in the original text could affect the quality of the final translation. Before I started the translation, well, I corrected the text, I checked it, and I read it and I understood it really well. And I identified different vocabulary that I didn't know. So I created a glossary. These are some of the words using reliable sources such as Cambridge Dictionary. The glossary included key terms from the text, their definitions, part of speech, and the possible translation. This helped me maintain consistency throughout the translation and ensure that I was using accurate and context appropriate vocabulary. For example, words like grandeur, rocked, and intertwine require carefully consideration because they have multiple meanings depending in the context. By using a glossary, I was able to choose translations that better reflected the tone and intention of the original text. Additionally, the glossary helped me work more efficiently because I could understand better and I could refer back to it instead of rethinking the same terms multiple times. Um, After preparing the text, I used a machine translation tool to generate an initial version of the translation. This step was very, very useful as a starting point, but the output was not fully accurate. The machine translation usually includes several issues, such as literal translations, unnatural phrasing, and incorrect interpretations in figurative expressions, such like idioms, right? Because of this, I didn't rely on it completely. Instead, I used it as a base and then carefully checked and improved the translation manually. During the translation process, I encounter several challenges that require careful analysis and decision making. First of all, I think that the main problem was literal translation. For example, the phrase stands as a statement was translated literally by the machine, which sounded unnatural in Spanish. To solve this, I translated as se saca como testimonio, which sounds more formal, and I've heard that phrase in several occasions. Um, Another challenge was figurative language, such as echoing the roars of gladiators, right? I also face cultural expressions such as San Dapo Piazza, which doesn't have a direct equivalent in Spanish. So I translated it as una plaza bañada por el sol, which sounds more natural and understandable for Spanish readers. Another issue was vocabulary precision. For example, the term rock landscapes. I, yeah, I couldn't decide which translation to use. So I chose paisajes rocosos because I was looking for other translations, some uses, but I couldn't really understand them because yeah, they sounded really technical, right? And I was thinking this is a tourism document. So yeah, like me as someone who is looking for a vacation place, like I would like to understand it easily. So I looked for a synonym, if I can, yeah, if I can call it like that, of like rock landscapes, right? I use paisajes rocosos using the definition of the word and some other options. In order to solve these problems in general, I use context analysis a lot. Like I was saying, this is a tourism document, right? And I consulted my glossary. I use search engines such as Google, and I prioritize natural expressions over literal translations. To improve the translation, I applied different techniques of equivalence. This was used in simple phrases such as Asian rules, which I translated as Ruinas Antiguas, since a direct translation works well in this case. Um, Another example was echoing the roars of gladiators. I focused on meaning instead of translating word by word. And another expression that I mentioned was San Double Piazza. I adapted the phrase to una plaza bañada por el sol to make it sound more natural in Spanish. And in general, these strategies allow me to produce a translation that is not only accurate, but it sounds natural and fluent and appropriate for the target audience. Um, I used MakeCut as a CAT tool to manage the translation process. This tool helped me organize the text into segments, maintain consistency, and reuse previously translated terms. It also made the revision process easier since I could see the source text and target text side by side. Additionally, Makeup generated a translation memory, which I exported it as a TMX file. And this file shows how translations can be stored and reused, which is very useful for future projects. In conclusion, this project helped me understand the importance of combining technology with translation skills to have the knowledge and how to manage technology in these cases. Using OZR tools, glossaries, machine translation, CAT tools, equivalence techniques allowed me to produce a more accurate and natural translation. It also showed me that machine translation is useful, but it must always be checked and improved, sorry, by a human translator. In general, this experience helped me develop both my technical and linguistic skills in translation. And this is it for today. Thank you so much.